Okay, so I've been receiving a number of different comments and questions across social channels and here on YouTube asking for me to do a deeper dive and then sort of simplify these concepts around how the gut shapes our mood, stress, energy level, resilience. And so what I'm hoping to do today, and I have some notes over here just so I can keep track and so this video doesn't go too long, is do just that. Give a simplified explanation and then some practical tips that you can utilize in order to optimize the gut, fuel the gut, um, balance the microbiome, and therefore improve your mood, energy, stress, reduce stress, and improve resilience. I mean, across the board, when we address the gut, when we optimize the gut, the rest of our biology flourishes. And so let's start sort of at the beginning. I think that's kind of reframing how we understand well being. Well being is the direct product of systems level biology. What do I mean by that? The gastrointestinal tract, the nervous system, the immune system, our brain chemistry itself are all systems at work in the body. And so, in that way, it's the product of the optimum operations of these systems, okay, trying to get simple, that produces our state of being. Okay, so when your gut is healthy, when your immune system is functioning well, when your nervous system is regulated, when your brain chemistry is balanced, you have achieved some state of well being. Okay, and there's a vast spectrum. So, in this way, how you feel emotionally isn't just about your mindset or your attitude. And I think this is a point to really understand because I think it's so easy for us to, when we're not feeling motivated, when we don't have sort of the energy we're looking for, we're chronically fatigued, when we're stressed out all the time, we can start to look at ourselves and say, okay, what's wrong with me? And sort of blame ourselves and almost to start to identify with that state of being. When in fact, if we were to nourish our microbiome, sustain it, balance it, when we have strong working immune systems, etc., the symptoms disappear, the motivation returns, the energy starts to flourish again, we get better sleep, and we become more resilient as people. And so it's very important when it comes to the gut, and that's sort of the focus of this video, in understanding just how heavily influenced what's happening in our gut is to digestion, inflammation, and microbial balance. The key kind of takeaway here, okay, is that many mood and energy issues are physiological signals. They're not personal failures. Let me say that again. Many mood and energy issues. Okay, so if you're feeling moody or imbalanced in terms of your mental state, if you don't feel like you have the energy, the drive, the determination, the motivation, this is a physiological signal. It's your body telling you something is off. It's not something wrong with you as a person. Okay, that's the take home there. So moving on, let's kind of look a little bit more deeply into where we've been focused primarily in the last few videos in a series on the subject, and that's the gut-brain axis. Okay, the gut-brain axis is this communication pathway. It's a bidirectional link between the brain and the gut. And in fact, the gut speaks more to our brain than our brain does to it. Okay, there are about 500 million neurons in our gut. So that bundle of nerves is constantly collecting data. It's doing so through a network that is linked through what we call the enteric nervous system. Okay, these are gut nerves. It's also connected to the central nervous system, the vagus nerve, okay, and immune and hormonal signaling. So there's a lot of information being passed either through electrochemical propagations or hormonal. That information, that bidirectional communication is happening all the time, 24/7. Your gut and your brain are constantly talking to each other, and the messages move both ways. So the most important point here as far as the gut-brain axis is that the gut sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the gut. So that tells you something right off the bat. There's a lot going on here that your brain and body need to be aware of. Okay? So let's dive a little bit deeper into that communication pathway. This bundle of nerves, 500 million neurons in the gut, communicating bidirectionally with our brain. You can think of, and in the sciences, we call it the second brain. Okay, so you have a number of different brains, different bundles of nerves throughout the body. The gut brain is the second brain. The communication between our gut and our brain, remember, is essentially powered almost predominantly by what's called the enteric nervous system. Okay, these are the nerves that are in the gut that can sense stress, inflammation, nutrient status, and do all of this independent of our conscious thought. So let me say that in a little bit different way. Your gut can sense when you're stressed, when you are inflamed, and when you are nutrient deficient without any conscious awareness, which is an incredible thing to think about, okay? That has sensors for all of these things, for each micronutrient, for things like cytokines, like inflammatory markers. And in this way, and this is why stress can change our digestion almost instantly. Anxiety can show up as gut discomfort. And for any of you who've ever experienced anxiety, I'm sure you've experienced that, the feeling of discomfort in the gut. While conversely, calm improves digestion, appetite, energy, and of course, lower stress. So from here, we need to picture in our minds what's called the microbiome. The microbiome, so you have the enteric system, that's that bundle, 500 neurons, 500 million neurons. You then have the microbiome. The microbiome is made up of trillions of microorganisms. And you can think of it as our body is like internal chemical factory. The microbiome is so critical to our health, well-being, longevity, mental state, in that it produces neurotransmitters, it regulates inflammation, it influences our immune system and what's called immune signaling. Okay, so telling the immune system where to go and what to do. And it can also affect vagal tone. Okay, so our body's ability, put simply, our body's ability to go from fight or flight back into parasympathetic calm, rest, digest. Vagal tone, or the more we improve our vagal tone, the easier it is for us to switch out of that fight or flight state, that fear state, and back into calm relaxation. The gut microbes themselves assist or influence the development of some key neurotransmitters, one of them being serotonin, which we know is associated with mood stability, GABA, which is directly correlated with calm and inhibition. Okay, so inhibition, like the ability to say no to something, right? That to resist the urge and our impulses, GABA plays a key role. Microbes are responsible for its creation or influence its creation. Dopamine. Okay, so when we talk about motivation and focus and drive, these gut microbes are key in producing the neurochemical of seeking, of motivation, of drive, dopamine. So, again, put simply, your gut bacteria help make some of the same chemicals your brain uses to feel calm, motivated, and emotionally balanced. And this is why so often poor gut health correlates with anxiety and low mood, while conversely, improving gut health often improves emotional resilience. It's an important kind of nuance that the gut doesn't cause the emotions, okay? It's not responsible for them. It biases the nervous system towards calm or stress, okay? Depending on how optimized your gut is and how balanced your microbiome is. Okay, the next topic that's really important when it comes to gut health, overall health, longevity, is inflammation as a mood signal. Okay, inflammation. I think we're so familiar with inflammation as being the product of, say, like of a disease or an illness or an injury. However, inflammation itself is a signal, and so gut inflammation releases these what are called pro-inflammatory cytokines that cross over the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so they can enter into our brains, which not everything can. The blood-brain barrier is quite robust at keeping out what it wants out and letting in what it wants in. So if something is crossing the blood-brain barrier, it's likely that it's supposed to. These pro-inflammatory cytokines can influence our mood, energy, motivation, and cognitive clarity, okay? Clarity of thought. And so in this way, inflammation, pro-inflammatory cytokines, okay, this form of inflammation can act like static in these systems, creating a lot of noise and dysfunction. So when the gut is inflamed, the brain interprets this as a threat state. So these cytokines travel across the blood-brain barrier. The brain says, okay, there is a threat. Something needs to be done about it. The common inflammation-driven symptoms that we might experience, and so here's to take notes, is brain fog, irritability, fatigue, low motivation, and emotional reactivity. So believe it or not, when your gut is inflamed, it can make us more emotionally reactive. When you reduce the inflammation, you reduce the reactivity, and you become more calm and responsive. Very interesting stuff. So again, key takeaway, when you're feeling off, it doesn't always mean something is wrong psychologically. It often means that your system is inflamed. Okay. And so the key to reducing those symptoms, to feeling better, to getting your mental clarity back, reducing the brain fog or irritability that you might be experiencing, is to reduce the inflammation in your gut. Okay. So more on that in future videos. In fact, I'm going to give you a whole recipe, a whole set of protocols that are designed just to reduce inflammation in the body. And most of it is very straightforward. Now, let's talk about the nervous system's role in digestion. Digestion is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So we eat food. In order to digest that food, absorb nutrients, break them down, methylate those nutrients into usable forms, the autonomic nervous system is really at the driver's seat to a very large degree. So, having said that, whether we are sympathetically activated, that's fight or flight, also freeze and fawn. Okay, there's actually 4 states of sympathetic activation, or we are parasympathetic, rest and digest, calm. You cannot digest well when you feel unsafe. Okay. And so this is a key thing to recognize and hold on to. If you take only one thing away from this whole video, it's how important it is to be in parasympathetic state as much as you can throughout the day. It's going to improve every metric of your health, of your state of being, of your enjoyment of life. Okay. So when you are stressed, right, blood flow shifts away from digestion. In that moment of stress, of threat, of fight, flight, digestion is lowest on the totem pole in terms of priority. Your body is preparing to fight or flee, right? Motility in the gut slows down. Inflammation increases, and we'll explain in another video why that is and the purpose of it. And most importantly, microbial diversity decreases. The microbes in our gut actually respond to whether or not we're sympathetic or parasympathetic because they're so intrinsically linked to our body, to our nervous systems. They respond in a negative way when we're under a tremendous amount or prolonged stress. When we are calm, on the other hand, digestion improves, nutrient absorption increases, so we get more nourishment from the foods that we eat. Gut signaling becomes stabilizing instead of stressful. Okay. Those signals that we're getting from the microbes, from our enteric nervous system, help bring us into a state of calm. Very beautiful. And so the key takeaway here is the nervous system regulation is not optional for gut health. It's foundational. Okay. And so that's why in my practice, in my philosophy, and what I try to impart here to you all is the importance of nervous system regulation, of self-regulation, and how we can achieve that. And so let's talk a little bit more about that, and that our ability to regulate our nervous system is really controlled by the vagus nerve. Okay. And so vagal tone is like the bridge between calm and digestion. Vagal tone reflects the functional health of the vagus nerve, the functional health. So, how well that vagus nerve is communicating, how well it's allowing us to de stress. It can help us regulate heart rate. It coordinates our digestion, as we've talked about. It transmits gut signals to the brain. And so we want this vagus nerve and our vagal tone to be optimized all the time, to be this smooth and continuous communication pathway. A strong vagus nerve helps the body interpret safety. Okay. And so that's why it's so key in shifting us from sympathetic activation to parasympathetic activation. Very quickly, some practices that we can use to improve our vagal tone would be slow nasal breathing, prayer and meditation, eating without distractions, what I call mindful eating. Okay. Slowly chew your food, enjoy it, taste it. Make eating almost like a meditative practice unto itself, in that you sit down and you very calmly enjoy your meal. Okay, this is really important, especially in today's world where, man, we barely have time for, maybe you have 10 or 15 minutes for lunch. You're trying to, wolf things down. You're basically inhaling it in a sympathetic state. Well, of course, you're now more stressed. You're more inflamed. You're absorbing less nutrition. Your gut's all imbalanced. I mean, it's no way to live. Okay. And so we need to just slow down and be more mindful as we eat. And then the last thing that's really interesting, and there's some great science to back this up, is to practice gratitude with meals. And so I don't know if you grew up in a household that said grace before a meal. Grace is basically a form, or really and truly is a gratitude practice. And so, whatever your beliefs are, being grateful for the meal in front of you, the meal you're about to enjoy, and then at the end of that meal, saying thank you for it, okay, has this beautiful way of rewiring our brain and body through a process called neuroplasticity. It also helps wire us to de-stress, okay? So it gives us the physiological environment to be less stressed. Okay. Next subject before I go on and on is, and I want to talk a little bit about this. I promise I will expand more in the future, but want to address something that I think is not talked about enough in healthcare, in holistic health, and integrative health, and that's nutrition signaling. Okay, nutrition food is not just fuel. Okay, food can influence a number of different things: microbial metabolites, short chain fatty acid creation, inflammatory signaling, neurotransmitter availability. Okay, so how receptive your body is has a lot to do with the foods you can eat. In plain English, the food doesn't just give calories, it sends instructions from your gut to your brain. Okay, there are there's so much more on this topic. I will definitely go into more. I will do a whole video just on nutrition signaling. It's that important, and it's also that complex. But there are 3 nutritional categories that need to be emphasized. And so the take home here is that you need, number 1, fibers and prebiotics. Okay. These are products, plant-based products that feed and are beneficial to the microbes in our gut. This therefore improves gut-brain signaling. Okay. The next one is polyphenols. These are plant compounds that reduce inflammation and support microbial diversity. So, spoiler alert, polyphenols will be a whole other topic because of how important they are in reducing inflammation. And the last one are omega-3 fatty acids. In my opinion, they are, because they're so intrinsically linked to neurological function, to gut health, to reducing inflammatory signaling. They can't be overlooked. I think they're a key and foundational nutritional category and something to always pay attention to. So again, the key takeaway here is nutrition can change the environment that our brain lives in. And so therefore, nutrition plays this critical role in our state of being, our state of mind, and the healthy function of those systems. Okay. Last thing. Why does gut health improve our well-being over time? And I'm just going to go to my notes here because there's quite a few reasons. I'm going to give you some bullet points, and then please leave a comment or a question, and I'm happy to deep dive into more of this. But your gut supports, or the gut support leads to reduced systemic inflammation, improved neurotransmitter balance, better stress tolerance, more stable baseline mood. When the gut environment improves, the nervous system becomes less reactive. Emotional swings soften or are reduced. Mental clarity improves, so that brain fog dissipates, and energy stabilizes. You just feel more balanced throughout the day, more energetic, less up and down. Okay. This isn't something that happens overnight or instantaneously. It's adaptive and cumulative. Human beings, we are cumulative creatures. And so the more you put these healthy practices into practice, you will accumulate greater and greater benefit over time. Okay, so that is a little bit more on the subject, a deeper dive. I know this video is a little bit longer than usual, but supporting our gut, regulating our nervous system, feeding the microbiome, all these things contribute to a healthy mind. Okay, the mind will follow the health and optimization of these symptoms. And again, when you are feeling this way, you're feeling a little off, feeling a little low energy, unmotivated, really want you to integrate into your mind that it's not a personal failure, that so often it is an imbalance in one of these systems, namely the gut. Okay. So when your gut is calm, your nervous system feels safe, your brain becomes clearer, and then your physiology really changes with it. Okay. It's not philosophical, it's physiology. That's it for today, guys. Take care. Speak soon.